Welcome back, Lab Coat Agents. We've got Bill Crespo with Espresso Agent. We'll be talking about expireds. I don't think we touched on expireds last time, Bill.
No, we haven't. And, you know, which is going to be a big market coming up, but like right now.
I think so, dude. I think so. I think we touched on for sale by owners, which was good. But let's talk about expireds. I just looked at the numbers, but we check every morning, and our numbers are up for sure for expireds. What's it looking like from the people you coach and the people you're talking to?
Well, we're seeing. I mean, it's almost like a horse race. You know how those horses are banging at the gate, wanting to run right in the beginning of the race. The doors are opening up, and these things are going. So the expireds are coming back. The thing that we need to really be aware of is, you know, the MLS stats of where pricing is going, because, you know, you don't want to get a hot potato from another agent who couldn't price it right. Now there's some type of whether it be 3-5% decline in pricing, you've got to be ahead of that declining curve, so that you got to look at your MLS stats really closely. But these expireds are going to be picking up as we get closer to the end of the year, and I got a feeling fourth quarter is going to be even bigger than what's happening right now, because around fourth quarter is when people are going to realize that things have changed. There's no way in heck that the economy can come back with 30-some million people out of a job. I mean, there's just no way. So your fourth quarter is going to be the hardest quarter for real estate agents. And if they don't bank right now, between now and let's just say October, they're going to be stuck November, December, and January of next year, or as things are progressing. So the expired is going to be your insurance policy to gather that business. Oh, I just want to remember, I want to step back and say, Tristan, last time we talked about the EHC program. Remember?
Dude, that was so good. That was so good.
Yeah. I just want to, I keep talking about our conversation, how that all came up.
Now I'm bringing it up everywhere. I'm like, so Bill and we were talking, and then Bill's like, no, you got to do the EHC. I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah. And it blends so nicely, because we talk about the equity, the health of the individual and the family and the house, and then the contract. I'm adding that in everything I'm saying after that, because while you're talking, I'm writing, and I'm going, man, we got something here. And then it was like, it was funny. It was a good time.
That was good, dude. And we'll talk about the EHC for those of you what the hell it is. Well, Bill, you mentioned something at the beginning, and I really didn't think about this until you brought it up, and that's where expireds are going to be coming a lot, even more, is that fourth quarter you're saying, and I agree with you. That means that we as agents have to get really, 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 really good at having a conversation about pricing. Right. I think that's where we start, right? Yeah. So you're an expert at this. So can you go through what that conversation would look like, and then we'll get into expireds? Yeah.
So you like this kind of stuff, because when I talk about what's happening right now, that's been happening for a long time, and we all got in, and there were all these great scripts, and now it's like, why are we saying what we're saying, and how do we really convince everything? Because now everybody basically has the same scripts. Right? So there's going to be a couple agents that will gravitate to something that they feel comfortable with, but understanding the process of communication. Someone is going to, in a very short amount of time, allow you to speak to them. Subconsciously, the brain's going to go, you know, I like their voice. So it starts off with the tone. It starts off with the tonality of that person's voice. And just the first words out of your mouth could go click, because you just sound monotone, or you sound like you have no energy. And this is why for years I've always told people to stand up while you're prospecting, because there's no way in hell you're going to have energy sitting on your chair prospecting. It just doesn't work. And if you're doing it and it's working, that means you're missing a lot of business because you're not standing up. And if you have knee problems, I tell people to get the butt lifter, which is a stool, and just hold it on your butt. And you know, I've got it, man. I got it right here, just in case, you know, things don't work out. I can just, you know, lay on that thing. But by elevating yourself actually gives you more energy, and actually helps you to hear and tune into the call better. So that first millisecond is where it's going to steer the conversation, and then allowing them to speak. We cut people off way too soon, because we can't wait for them to hear what we have to say. right?
So true, because we're so interested in what we've got to say to them. Right?
Yeah. I want you to hear something that I like to hear about myself. So I hopefully that you like me as much as I like me. So that goes on in the call. Remember what they said years ago that what ego stands for?
No, tell me.
EGO, eliminating growth opportunities.
Wow. Right? I like that.
Eliminating, because our ego gets in the way of the conversation. So we end up wanting to talk more because we actually believe that we're impressing them. In the meantime, if you allow them to talk more, they feel that they're in control and that they really like you more because you allow them to talk. And so it's kind of counterintuitive for salespeople.
Dude,
that's the problem.
So true. Well, just on that, only because it's so important for expireds in any part of sales. It's a counterintuitive because for so many years, our industry for sales was taught, well, you need to be in control, right?
Right.
And I think it's the opposite. You really need to let go of control and let them know that they're in the driver's seat and you're listening.
Right. But here's really cool. You could let go of control and have total control. That's when you've gone to another level of selling, is when you are actually letting go of this so-called hard selling process, but that actually gives you more control because they don't see it. I just got off the phone with someone who's called me up with a question. They said, Bill, I'm having a problem because I've got to close this person to do something. And I said, well, did you find out what the real reason is? Well, they got to sell because someone died. And I go, okay, but what's the pain? Well, someone died in the family. That's not the pain. You always sell to an underlying, under the skin pain because you always bring that back. And that takes a little bit of skill of finding out what the real reason is. And the way you do that is a little thing called a reverse. The reverse is like, if Tristan, you go like this, yeah, we got to sell because we want a big house. I said, really? So that's unbelievable. Where do you live right now? Well, I live in a 1,500 square foot house. Wow, that sounds really big. Well, what will happen when you tell them, if you go, that sounds really big, what are they going to tell you?
Oh, no. It's right. They'll be like, no.
They throw up every reason why the house is not big enough for them. Now you get to the point of why they really want to move. They don't really want a big house. It's the pain that's happening inside that house for them. When a salesperson understands that, they have gone someplace that no one else has gone with them in the conversation, which means they talk more and you find that information out. Now you sell to the pain. So, hey, Bob, what you're telling me here is that this is not just about a big house. It's the fact that you're home and you don't have an extra room for the baby. And you plan on getting a new job and you need an office. So this is about the future of your family, not just a big house, right? And now all of a sudden that conversation that you had with them, they go, wow, no one's ever really said that because everybody else is just talking to me how they're going to do a great thing for me. You said that, and this right now, Tristan, I actually believe because of the COVID-19 situation, you got to let people talk. You can't cut them off and sell them. They need to kind of give you what they know about their situation, and that helps you to understand that. Does that make sense?
No, dude, 100%. It's right on. So let's get into this conversation when it comes to us reaching out to these expires, that most of them are overpriced, right? That's why they didn't sell. Some had terrible marketing, but let's get into the pricing. How do we approach that where it comes across more genuine, and how do we get to that conversation first without seeming like we're just careless?
Well, with the expires, I came up with a really short script. We beat around the bush so much. So your first call that comes out, or one of the first things you say out of your mouth is, hi, I'm calling about 123 Main Street. Is it still listed with Tristan? Yes, it is. Hang up. Why are we wasting our time on the call?
Yeah, very true. I think some people expect every call to convert them into something, and some just will not. So,
and this is why, Tristan, that the number of contacts per hour is reduced even with these dialers, because they're letting the conversation go too far because, oh my gosh, it's a nice person I get to talk to who likes me. In the meantime, you're going nowhere on the call. It's not going to earn you anywhere near a commission because it's a nice person. So you end up having a nice conversation with a nice person who's going to list with a nice person already and not you, and you just wasted 30 minutes. Right?
That's very true. Very true.
I mean, because we don't have a lot of nice conversations. Why? Because we're prospecting, and most people are going to reject you when you're prospecting. Not everybody's going to be. So we've learned, after a while, people are thinking that, and this is what I'm hearing. Someone said to me the other day, well, Bill, what about a care call? I said, you can make all the care calls you want. If you want to make commission, you're going to have to cut down your care calls. Because your care calls is not going to make you any money. I know it's easy to sell a care call to this, because listen, if 85 to 90% of the people in real estate are not really making money in real estate, then that means those are the people that are doing the care calls.
Yeah, I think there's a spot for the care call, right? Like a one-time thing. If you haven't talked to them and you don't know how the hell they're doing, that makes sense, right? But you've got to then switch over to, hey, let's get right into this, right? Let's understand the market we're in, because everybody I've talked to, hands down, past clients, fear when I call them, say, hey, how are you doing? They immediately switch it over to, how are you doing, Tristan? How's the market? What's happening? Are things still selling?
Yeah.
Right.
But what happens here is that actually people, and not that I want to belabor this point, but to believe that if you focus your day on care calls, that's going to actually get you out of this financial situation that you're in is almost immature in your thinking. You're going to have to, it's going back to your question in pricing, you're going to have to bring up pricing. Let's just say you made that call and the person says, no, I'm not listed with Tristan anymore. We don't know what we're going to do.
Yeah.
The next thing out of your mouth should be, well, let me ask you this question. You've already identified yourself. If by chance the market ends up going in the opposite direction and you have to reduce your price, will you still list it? Or if the market drops by 10 or 15%, will you still put it back on the market? So I've planted two thoughts. First of all, I said that the market is going down. So I planted a little bit of concern there for this person. And then I'm going to find out if they're really motivated. This is where we start the dialogue happening, because the worst place to be with someone is neutral. A no is still fine. All we're trying to do is make the pendulum move. So by you not having any method of getting a reaction out of someone, you hang up, the person's in neutral position. So your job, your job is to move the pendulum. Let that thing continue to swing. That's called a conversation in sales.
Yeah.
Even if it goes to no, it can swing to yes. And what happens is we just hang up and we believe what the person says right off the initial question. Nope, we're not going to do anything. Okay.
Well, that's what everybody says on expireds, dude.
Yeah, we're gonna watch the market. Okay, how long do you want to watch the market? Well, let me ask you this, Mr. Seller. If the market drops by 10%, are you still going to sell? Well, we have to sell. Okay, now my ears have perked up. Really? Tell me about that. Now I got to let them talk. Well, we got a new job, and so let me ask you this question: if it made financial sense to move your time frame up, would you consider putting it on the market sooner? It's a logical question. I'm not getting salesy. It's like it's a consultative question versus a salesy question. Mm-hmm. Now the person says to me, well, yeah, what do you mean? Now it's the fish who swallowed the hook versus the fish that you pull up the rod and you graze. So now he is in a conversation with me, engaged, because he asked me a question. I have to set up. See, this is the same thing we said in the beginning, that we actually allow them to talk. It appears that we're moving backwards, but they're coming towards us. If we go this way to them, they run away from us. So in this world that we're in right now, the more that you go this way with them with technique, they now come towards you. And now you have a dialogue. And I would say, well, gosh, Mr. Seller, here's my concern for you. So the first words out of my mouth is, here's my concerns for you. Now that comes from a level of contribution. I'm not selling them. So my concerns for you is the same thing I'm telling my sellers, is that if you list now, you could save 10 or 15% and at your price, Mr. Seller, because we're seeing indications that the market is shifting. That could be $30,000 to $40,000. Do you want to save that kind of money, or do you want to lose it? Well, I want to save it. And then now I'm going to close for the appointment. the way I spoke to that person was so different than the other agents that now I have positioned myself as an authority in the conversation that makes that person want me.
Yeah, I agree, dude. So there are two things. Well, you said a lot of awesome things there, first of all. So thank you. But there are two things that stood out to me that I need to reiterate for agents that are listening in. And the first thing is that you said at the beginning, you said, we need to consult instead of sell. And if we approach it through consulting, what happens is something happens in your mind where you're no longer trying to sell yourself. You're not saying, hey, we're number one. And then sometimes when we don't know what to say, we throw out this garbage. And it's happened to all of us because I've recorded my calls and I'm like, whoa, how the hell did I say that? That was terrible.
Yeah, right.
So when you shift that mindset to consult, all of a sudden you feel like you're trying to help them, right? It's no longer about who you are, what your company does, how amazing everything is on your end. It's, hey, let me give you some stats. Let me give you where the market is heading according to the research I've done. Yeah. And which leads into the second part you said. You really need to have data, right? Because if I don't know what the market is, where the market is heading based on me having my ear to the ground and understanding how many have gone active, how many have sold, and just check this graph that I have, right. I won't know what to say because then I'll gravitate to, my office is the most amazing office and I'm number one. And it's like,
yeah.
Right. It goes, what would you say? You said ego, which is eliminating
growth with opportunities. Yeah.
Dude. So you're right on. I think we need to be more, approach it like a consultant and then do some research.
But here's what's interesting. People go, well, what sales book can I learn this? Just pick up anything that has to do with behavior science and understand the human being. 85% of the time, a human being will always act the same way. All right. So if that's true, then if I say something that I know that 85% of people will act the same way, like like your kids, you tell them to clean their room, they'll go, there's no way, I don't have time, I gotta go. But if I said this to my daughter, which her room's always a mess, I'd go, hey, Aaron, you probably don't have time right now, do you, to do your room? And then they go, well, yeah, I have a little bit of time. But of course, I go total Puerto Rican all out on them. Clean your friggin' room, I can't go, can you do? And then they resist. It's all psychological. It's all psychological. And see, what happens is in real estate, because the consumer has been so educated, we haven't changed the way we deliver our services. And here's what's going to happen. And I'm warning all the real estate agents that are listening to you right now. The iBuyers are coming in to take your business away with a better presentation, with a corporate style of presentation that you can't do because you're not willing to take the time to study. And what happens is that you've got to put more time into practicing what Tristan and I are talking about, because or else you're in fourth quarter, your script's got to change. Like, would you like fries with that? Or I'm now working for Amazon. And I mean, you better do something or else, the train has left the station. Have you left the station with new techniques? And I think what's happening is because there's so many agents that are afraid to start to call expireds and for sale by owners that they're gravitating to the less, something that is easier, like the care calls.
Yeah, and that's definitely easier. But look, dude, the money is always in the stuff that people aren't doing, and this is it.
Oh man, it's so easy, man. We're the most immature industry in the history of business.
That's nuts. Well, that's a whole different topic, dude.
Yeah, man, don't get me on that.
I know.
Don't get me on that. I mean, I could go on for days on that, but expireds can be the one source that if you get good at, can save you in fourth quarter. And it is challenging. And I know some of you are scared to make the call because people are mean and they're going to hang up with you. Well, if you have kids, they're mean to you every other day. So if you can handle that, you can handle expired on the call because they're going to say things.
That's so true. Well, let's get right into that part. And that's the calling expireds. One of the things that I tell the agents that are newer in calling expireds, just so that they don't get completely killed and obliterated, is do your best to call from 8 a.m., right? 8 a.m. to 8:30. At least you'll be getting people that haven't been called as much So you won't get as many people angry as you. Because if you start picking up the phone around 9:30 or 10, forget about it. At that point, they've been bombarded, and it's tough to break through, right, Bill?
No. And let me tell you why.
Oh, I love this, dude. Tell me.
Okay, so I hear the agents now. Well, Tristan said 8 to 8:30. Oh, it's 9:15. I'll wait till tomorrow.
Oh,
I recall. You got to be careful, man. These guys are going to believe everything you say, and then you're different. You're going to make the call. But it's, oh, wait a minute. He said 8:30. It's 8:35.
Oh, no, they'll never call.
I'll never call. So
look,
here's what it,
yeah, definitely.
Listen, I've had 6 kids. I am very concerned about what comes out of my mouth because they hang on everything I say. Not that you guys are kids, but we are, as George Carlin used to say, bent over children. So so all I'm saying to you is that call them. I don't care what time of the day it is, because you're, in my opinion, Tristan, you're implanting a thought that's a negative thought that's going to cause someone to have an excuse not to call.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't care if you call them, because I'm going to call them and I'll have a better conversation because I know how to talk to someone on the phone to have them like me in a short amount of time. I don't care how many times you've talked to them. If you believe you're the better agent, you have a better presentation. It's like people say, well, I don't want to call FSBO right now because they just listed. I don't care, because guess what? If I call right now, I'm setting the bar so high that the next agent is here, but when they're ready, they're going to call me.
I love that, dude. All right, great point. I agree. The time that I tell people, hey, only call from this to this time, they will wait till 8:30 because they're like,
yeah. My kids will go, hey, Dad said 8:30. It's 8:35. We better call tomorrow. And then tomorrow something happens and they got one deal that they're working on all day long, and it's 2 months later. They go, oh, look, I got some time. I don't feel good today. I'm just not really with it.
So, dude, let's talk about the jitters, because you just brought that up. A lot of people will be like, I'm not, and then they will never call. It's 8:30, 9 o'clock, and they're like, tomorrow. I'll call tomorrow. How do you just get over that so that you could just pick up the phone and start calling?
Okay, so this goes into the immature conversation, but we won't go in there. Is that if you are getting paid, like watch this, that same person that says I'm getting the jitters, I'm going to say to that person, here, I've got $10,000 in this brown paper bag. I want you to smell it. You smell it? Touch the money. I'm going to give it to you Friday at 5 o'clock. The entire bag of $10,000, cash in your hands. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to call expireds from 8 to 12 every day. For 5 days, that's all you got to do, and this money is yours. Watch how many people make those calls that they're afraid of. The reason why is because we're getting paid a commission. We have no concept of the money that we can make. So because it's not there and we can't touch it, we're not able to do this. And I've learned this from my kids, again, because I have a daughter who's a level 10 gymnast, right? I say something to them, they cry. The coach says something to them, and they do it. Now, why is that? Here's another one. All these agents that have ADD, you go to school and the teacher tells you to do that, you kind of do it, or you go to work and tell your boss, you know what, I got a little ADD. Can I get to that later? What would they do to you? They'll fire your butt. And all of a sudden your brain goes right into accomplishing what you're saying you have ADD in real estate. This is why, again, we've allowed a certain behavior to take place in real estate that is so obnoxious. This is why we have a high level of low productivity. If we finally took better perspective of what we've got in front of us, that you have the ability to earn more money than the average person in any field. The average CEO in America only makes $500,000.
Damn.
That's the average CEO in America makes $500,000. There's agents out there killing it right now, way above that.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, here's their brown paper bag, Tristan. Make the call. Stop acting like a friggin' baby.
Here's the paper bag. We need a t-shirt, dude. We need a t-shirt that says that.
That'd be good.
Paper bag.
Tila, we'll market the brown paper bag with money and then the EHC at the same time. We're done. We can go to the Bahamas.
Dude, well, let's get into that type of the conversation. And that's when you're calling up expireds, you're going to hear the same things over and over, right? No, or I'm getting too many calls, or you know what, we're going to wait. right? What's your approach? How would that conversation go when you're calling expireds to do your best to at least break through it and talk to them a little bit?
Yeah, I think the one mistake that a lot of people make, I think the one thing that I've learned, and again, I didn't make this stuff up. I do a lot of studying, and I've been mentored, and I've learned from people that are outside the real estate industry. Because if I learn from people inside the industry, I'll go broke. So what I've done is understand that the first thing you have to do is agree with someone. You can't just tell them why they're wrong. It doesn't work with your wife or your husband to expect that it goes right on the conversation. So you've got to have to say, I totally understand. I completely see your point. So now we've dropped that invisible guard that's up there saying you're a salesperson.
Hold on, dude. That's such a good point.
Sorry. I have one cup of coffee, that's all.
For those that, dude, you never should have a cup of coffee. This is crazy. Like 100 miles an hour. This is good. For those of you who have a spouse or a boyfriend, girlfriend, what Bill just said just resonated with me, and that's you don't ever tell them when you're having an argument or when you just want to make your point. You don't say, oh, you know what, you're totally wrong. You definitely 100% would be like, that makes a lot of sense, right? Yeah. That is definitely the approach, dude.
Hey, listen, I've done it wrong I've been married for 20 some years, and I've screwed up for probably 17 of them, right? And then I'm in the doghouse. So I figured, hey, what if I change my approach with her? And guess what happens? She changes the approach to me, and the conversation doesn't go to a level 15 out of a scale of 1 to 10.
So true.
Right? So if you go, Mr. Smith, I totally understand what you're saying, but let me ask you this question. Back to that same thing, if the market declines by 10%, how does that affect your plans? Just a question.
Yeah.
And let's get a reaction, because then you know where you're going with the person, and they go, well, that will definitely affect us, or we can still sell, but we're going to have to take money out of our retirement money. Tristan, I had a client years ago that when the market originally tanked, took $100,000 out of their retirement fund to pay. They were upside down in the house to get out of their house. People will do anything if they're emotionally attached to where they want to go. So don't think because they're going to drop by 10 or 15,000 that they don't have the money to get out of the house. And now, not every market will be this way, but a majority of the United States will have a decrease. I think there's going to be a shift in fourth quarter. And so the more that we can understand how to handle the price issue. But here's what happens. Let's say if you relist a house, first of all, never relist a house at the same price. I mean, you just shoot yourself, because that's a stupid thing to do. Just, think about that. If you're now taking a hot potato from an agent who couldn't sell it at that price, mm-hmm. It's because that agent did not know how to articulate properly where the market is going, and or that person did not establish himself as an expert and as a consultant in the beginning of the relationship, which means that now if you don't establish yourself right in the beginning, guess who becomes the real estate agent? The seller. And then they're going to tell you what they need. If you don't establish yourself in the beginning, it's going to be tough. And then you're chasing a number, or you never get the right price. You just never get the right price. I mean, we're making this whole difficult. The right price is the first price you put on a house is going to be the best price reduction you could ever give.
That's very true, man. Very true. So let's go through the conversation so people understand how to convert these expireds to an actual listing. Because I know you and I know it doesn't take one call, right? It takes sometimes months to convert these people. So what does that look like to you normally?
Okay, now watch. And let me catch you again. There you go, planting another thought into someone's head.
Okay, dude. You know what?
Come on, man. Listen, it
takes a day.
That same day. You can list it that same day.
That's very true. I've done it. So I've been calling expired since 2004.
Remember when they said the 5-minute listing presentation? I go, man, there's no way. I'm sitting, the guy goes, ask the question. You ready you want me to sell a house for you? The guy goes, yeah. I go, wait a minute, I got an hour and a half presentation. No, but all I'm saying is that is what we have to stop in this marketplace, because we need to understand that if you are good, they're going to list with someone that's good. And if you bring up the right content in the conversation, you have triggered a thought in their mind that goes, this guy, Tristan, sounds different. Something about him, and he's making sense. Because the man's greatest fear is the fear of loss. Right? Man's greatest fear is fear of loss. They do it to us every day in advertising. Buy now or you lose this sale. I get it. I play music at night when we can. And I get this ad all the time saying you can buy this equipment now at 15% off. I'm like tempted. I want to buy it. It's 15% off only up to this date. That's a fear that I'm going to lose that deal. Are you bringing that kind of conversation up with someone on the phone?
So what I'm hearing is agents have to improve their dialogue, definitely, by a lot more than where they're at right now.
A whole lot more. And here's what happens, Tristan. And again, with all due respect to all the trainers and everybody that's out there, this is, if you learn from the inside of real estate, you're regurgitating the same stuff that they get you nowhere. But start to get books and read things outside of the industry. One really good thing that I've read that has nothing to do with any book, when you start reading things like Psychology Today, the magazine, they've got all these different articles, you start understanding that people behave a certain way. All you want to do in that short amount of time with the expired is get them to like what you're saying. Okay, and then when they like what you're saying, they've opened their mind to listen to a point that you're going to make. And the point is the fear of loss. Once they hear the fear of loss with high motivation, you're going to do one of three things. You're either going to get they're not ready right now, but they like what you have to say. So now they're in a database call. Now you're following up on them. Number two, they like what you have to say, but they want a preliminary conversation. So you don't give them the whole thing, but you may have to do a Zoom presentation on an overview of the marketplace to help tease them into doing the actual listing presentation, or you have a listing presentation. So only 2-3 things. You always want to leave with a good impression every time. So if you leave the impression of expert, influencer, consultant, you've now left a level of your brand that no other agent has in your marketplace. And what's beautiful about this business of real estate, most people are terrible on the phone. So anything you do that looks different, separates yourself from the competition just like that.
All right. What are you telling the agents that you coach? Hey, this is how you stand out. This is how you differentiate yourself. How does that look?
We have to get away from talking in generalities. And you just said something, research. Words like research, statistics. When you start adding more more vernacular that has to do with consultative talking versus general, I want to be your best friend and can I come over and hug you talk, you just put yourself into another category. Think about this just for a second. If you go to a doctor right now and the doctor wants to tell you about his golf game and you're sitting there in pain, that's not what you want out of the doctor. Even if the doctor is a pain in the butt, he's got to prove to you that he knows how to heal your pain. We never go after the pain. We just want to be friends first. We have to have the skill of going right to the pain as quickly as possible. Once we hit the pain, we address it and show them how to get them out of the pain. And that takes a whole nother level of learning that has never been really taught in real estate. It's always about a script, use these words. But once you understand the meaning behind the words and how to get to a certain point, it opens up the conversation and you have less rejection. They may not be ready right now, but they're not going to slam you as hard as them sensing that you're selling them on something, if that makes sense.
That makes total sense. So how do we get to that pain quicker? Because I know there's also, like you said before, it's like your spouse, right? You can't just be like, hey, you're wrong, right?
Yeah. We don't want to go there.
No, it's got to be a little bit more like, got it, I understand. How do we pivot into that so that we have better chances of them continuing that conversation with us?
So let's go back to the argument with the wife. So no, and you're with that person and they say, well, yeah, no, I can see your point. What are some of the reasons why maybe you feel that way, or what is causing you to have that type of opinion? Okay, now I'm allowing them to talk. When anybody gives you emotion on a conversation, well, you know, I'm totally frustrated with this agent. He had it for 6 months, and now we're in this COVID thing, and now we had to move because my husband's being stationed or we have a new job. Let them talk. Let them just talk. Don't step on their words. Like the argument with the wife, you step on that, that's going nowhere with you. So what you'd let them talk. And then watch, if you want to go to the advanced level, gosh, honey, tell me more about that. Right? So you went from that level here. Now we went even deeper. Tell me more about that. You're good. Now we're going down to that one point where no one goes. Well, let's say we're back to the expired. You don't understand. I had to listen with this guy for 6 months. The COVID thing happened. Now we don't know what's going to go on, and we have to move because of the job. And so we're waiting to see what the market really, gosh, it sounds like a really awkward situation and very stressful. Tell me about that. And then they now elaborate more. Now you're giving them time to even talk more. But when they talk the next time, it's actually a deeper sense of sharing the emotion. The other thing that I learned after that, you go, well, gosh, what I hear you say is this. Now you repeat back to them what you've heard. That makes them know that you heard them. So it's instant rapport, instant identifying the pain, and you now repeat back to them. And now you're saying something like this. So here's my concern, Mrs. Smith. You know, this is a big, it sounds like this is a big move for you guys, and I understand, and you've been frustrated with this other situation with COVID and everything else going on. If the market drops by 10 or 15%, what happens?
They'll probably say, wow, you really think it'll drop by that much?
Well, here's what research has shown us, and I just went over the stats just recently.
I love
and
that.
what we're seeing is a gap that's starting to form between list price to sale price, plus we're seeing more houses staying on the market longer. So that indication is telling me something's happening. I'd hate to see you guys lose equity. Back to saving, protecting equity. So one of the plans that we're telling my agents right now, let's say my clients right now, is the fact that in this program that we are doing, which I call the EHC program, is now I bring it up. It's a program to protect your equity, which you can't lose if you work with us. We're going to protect the health of your family and the home, and we're going to protect your contract because we're seeing contracts fall out because the guidelines, now another fear, guidelines are changing with the mortgage companies. So what I like to do, Mrs. Smith, I know you're probably not ready right now, but I think it's imperative that we get together and I can share this information with you. If it doesn't make sense, I'm okay with that. But at least you know what you're walking into in this marketplace. When's the best time that we can get together on this?
I love that. That's so simple to the point. It shows that you're prepared, you're different, and you've done some research. Dude, you brought it all together in such a short, that was like 30 seconds or less, man.
Yeah. But can I make a care call? Can I tell you that I care about you? You know, listen, guys, listen, I understand why you're doing it because it feels better to do that. But to create the skills and to practice this takes some time and effort. And it's just a matter of just doing it and understanding it. And you're coming from a consultant versus a salesperson, and you're coming from someone that needs to be led. They need an agent right now that can lead them out of the situation and tell them what's coming down the road.
That's true. And they'll notice that in the way that you're talking too.
And your tonality, right? Unfortunately, there's a lot to do with your tonality. And I highly recommend, now, you know, with Espresso Agent, you could record your voice. I would say, if you want to get really good at this, record your voice at least once a day and go over how you sound and take notes on it, and then start to improve in your delivery. That will get you good really quick.
It's very true. Very true. They need to feel the sincerity, and it's all in the tone.
Yeah. Yeah. And we want to help them, guys. And it's not that we're trying to do a slick thing. I mean, really, I'm looking for that person that sees me as a valuable person. I'm telling you guys that you're bringing something to the table that could relieve them from their pain. The pain of whatever that pain is.
It's interesting that you said that. Yeah, that's true that Espresso has that. And for years, before I got into real estate, I was in telemarketing. So they would record the calls, right? And this call is being recorded, and then I'd get into it. They would record the calls, and then we'd have to go through and then sit through them and listen to the calls.
Yeah.
And then they would critique them. So it reminds me now of what athletes do, where they watch the footage, right, of them playing and say, hey, you saw this over here. This, you're doing this wrong. You should be over here.
Yeah. It's like the films. It's like watching the films.
We should be doing that as agents. If you're calling anybody, you should be looking at the way you're speaking with people, your tonality and the approach, because what you'll see trends. You'll see like, oh, got it, I shouldn't be saying that. And you'll start seeing trends in what those clients are saying. It's repetitive. And you're like, wow, that's interesting. They're saying the same thing over and over, maybe slightly different. And then you'll start paying attention to how to better respond as well. So Bill, that's a very important point that not a lot of people bring up in the recordings.
And actually now, and think about it now, Tristan, the fact that we're doing Zoom presentation, I don't think Zoom presentations are going to go away. If not, we got to keep it because they'll save the agent some time and money. But how well are you doing the presentation over Zoom? Is your PowerPoints matching? Are you doing it in presenter mode? Or are you doing it into one? I mean, there's so much to be done there. You know, I've been lucky that I've been doing this for a long time, and I remember looking at my stuff in the beginning, not having two screens like I have now, and the importance of that, or using Notability on iPad, which is like a great tool.
Love that. Love that. You're right.
So, I mean, I think we got to record this and watch it or send it to someone and let them review it for you. And, you know, I think don't beat yourself up when you're listening to the recording. Just there's 3 questions. What did I do right? What do I have to improve on? And what do I have to stop doing? That's it. That's all you got to worry about. And then go back on the phones and wait till 8:35 to start.
Get out of here. I love it. That was good. That was good. All right, Bill, anything you want to leave everybody with here? This was good.
No, guys. Hey, listen, just use the Espresso tools to record yourself, and don't forget the for sale by owners. But Espresso was, our conversation today was about expireds, and you know, it's going to take some time. And the beauty of this thing is that the consumer is looking for that type of person right now. And if they don't find it, they end up doing it themselves. If they don't find it, they keep going through agents and agents and agents till they find it. And by accident, the house could sell. But if you want deals happening and you want to have a good fourth quarter, you got to get on these expireds now.
I agree, man. I agree. And guys, don't wait for the fourth quarter to come, because by then it'll be too late.
Too late. That's right.
So that's it. Bill, thanks for being on, man. I appreciate it. And guys, check out Espresso Agent, espressoagent.com. Super easy. That's what we all use here.
Yeah. All right, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
See you, Tristan. Take care, bud. Bye-bye.